everyone, this is Mr. McMillan. I'm here with the review video for circles in the coordinate plane, just going over the solutions and explaining some of the concepts to do with equations of circles. Now, of course, as this is a quiz review, it has more questions than the quiz does. The quiz has 10 questions, and you may not see all the different types of problems that are on here. On that quiz, but the vast majority you will. Okay, so make sure that you understand how to do all of these. Now let's look at number one. Number one says plot the circle including the center defined by the equation x plus 3 squared plus y minus 5 squared equals 16. Now remember that an equation of a circle has the general form x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared, where hk is the center and r is the radius. Okay, now take note that the center always has opposite signs to what those are in the equation. Okay, so center has opposite signs. So we want to plot the circle, so we need to know the center, we need to know the radius. So if we're looking at our equation, we have x plus 3, so our x coordinate for the center is going to have something to do with that 3. Now since the center has opposite signs from the equation, the sign in the equation is positive, so our center must have a negative 3 as the x value. Likewise, if we look at what's paired with the y, we have a y minus 5 here. The sign here is negative, so in our center, the sign should be positive. Now let's look at our radius. Now, it's very tempting to say that our radius is 16 because it's like, hey, that has an r in it, so 16's it, right? But you need to make sure that you understand that r squared is 16. So we haven't found what r is yet, we only know what r squared is. So to determine what r squared is, we square root both sides, and the square root of 16 gives us 4. So we have a center at negative 3, 5 with a radius of 4. So we're going to plot the center, because that's what it wants us to do. So we get negative 3, and then up 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's our center. And now, since our radius is the distance starting from the center to the edge of a circle, we're going to go up, down, left, and right 4 places. So we go right 1, 2, 3, 4. We go down 1, 2, 3, 4. Make sure you start at the center each time. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now we just connect our circles best we can. Hey, that wasn't half bad. And that does it for number 1. Okay. All right. Number 2, given the graph below, write the equation that represents the circle. So to write the equation of a circle, you need to determine 2 things. First, you need your center, and second, you need your radius. Okay. So we're going to find our center and radius here. So our center, of course, is where it's dead set in the middle. It's the equidistant point. It's the fixed point. And so we can see that our center is about right there. And our center appears to be negative 2, negative 1. Okay. Make sure, remember, go left and right first and then up or down. Okay. So we have our center. Now we need to determine our radius. Remember that your radius always starts from the center and goes to the edge. So just like we did here in number 1, we counted up, down, left, right, how many ever spaces. We're going to do the same thing here. We're going to start from the center and make sure we've gotten the correct center. So we have to go from negative 2, negative 1. We go up 1, 2, 3. We go right 1, 2, 3. Left 1, 2, 3. and 1, 2, 3. So our radius is 3. So now we plug that into our equation. So our equation is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So when we pair these things up with our x's and y's, we need to make sure that they have opposite signs. So we've got x minus h, so x minus -2. The center has opposite signs from the equation, so this will be x plus 2 squared plus, again, the center has opposite. The -1 is with the y, so we have y plus 1 squared equals r squared. Now make sure you do r squared here. There will be answer choices that go, hey, here's a 3, and that's it. Or here's a 9 or whatever, okay? So you need to make sure that on the end you do r squared. So 3 squared gives you 9. Number 3, what is the center and radius of the graph? Center and radius of the circle shown in the graph below. So all we're given here is a graph, and I know the lines didn't print here, and that's my apologies, but we work with what we've got. So our center, again, is the fixed point in the middle, and our radius is the distance from the center. Now we can sort of tell that our center would be at -4, 5, be about right there. So our center is at -4, 5. And our radius is 1, 2 spots. And we need to make sure 1, 2, 1, 2, and 1, 2. So our radius is 2. Number 4, select all the points that lie on the circle with equation x plus 3 squared plus y minus 4 squared equals 16. Now, there are 2 ways you can do this. I'm going to show you one of them with that way, and then I'm going to show you the other way using the graphing calculator. So x and y just are points that are on the circle. So if we plug something into x and something into y, and it gives us back 16 when we simplify this, we know that point lies on the circle. So we're going to test that out with -7, 4. Okay, so -7, 4, we've got -7 plus 3 squared plus 4 minus 4 squared is equal to, now if we do all this, we get -7 plus 3, which is -4 squared. 4 minus 4 squared is 0, and 0 squared is just 0. -4 squared gives you 16, so this would be an answer. Now let's go over to Desmos, and it will take a second for me to get this set up. So we're going to go over to Desmos here. I picked the wrong one. Apologies. So we're going to go over to Desmos, and we're going to type in that equation that we had. So we have an x plus 3 squared. We're going to type it in exactly like it shows on the paper. Equals 16. Okay. So now all we have to do is plug in those points. So on the second line after you've graphed the equation, we're going to look and see if -7, 4 does indeed lie on the line. So we're going to type in -7, 4, and we see that apologies about that. So we see that we do have -7, 4 in our equation there, okay? And we see that it does lie on the circle, which is what we found when we plugged in our points. Now, I'm going to label these as we go along just so I can put these all on at the same time. So -3, 8. -3, 8 would be an answer choice that you could pick because it lies on the circle. All right, let's look at the next one, 1, 5. 1, 5, it's almost there, but not quite. Okay, so 1, 5, we cannot say lies on the circle. So moving on to -3, 7. -3, 7 is here. It's inside the circle, but you want the ones that lie on the circle. So they have to be on this red circle here. Okay. So let's move on to the next one, -7, 5. And again, we see that -7, 5 is very close, but it's not quite on the red line that's represented by the circle. So that can't be an answer choice. So let's look at 3, 0. And as you can tell, 3, 0 is way over here. And that obviously is not on the circle. Okay. So the only choices that we can pick here are the first and second choices. Okay, the first and second choices here. So -7, 4 and -3, 8. Now there might be more than two. In those situations, you just have to make sure you select all of the ones that lie on the circle. Number 5, given circle Q with center at 3, -15, which equation below could represent circle Q? Okay, so the key here is you'll see that all of the R squares are exactly the same. So the only thing that differs is the parts with the x minus h squared and the y minus k squared. So you have to be very careful here. And remember that in your equation, the center has opposite signs from the equation. So the center is a +3, so we know that we need a -3 for our equation. So we know it has to either be A or C. And then the y has a -15, so it needs to be a +15 in the problem, and that would be C. Number 6, what is the equation of a circle that has a center at -8, 9 and a radius of 6 units? So remember that when you do an equation of a circle, you need two things. You need the center and the radius. This gives us the center and it gives us the radius already. So we don't need to find anything. Okay, so our general form is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So your center has opposite signs from your equation. So in the first parentheses, you would have x. Your center is negative, so in the equation, it should be positive. So x plus 8 squared. Then your center with the y is positive, so it should be negative in the equation. So you get y minus 9 squared equals r squared. Well, r is 6, so you need to square that. 6 squared is 36. Number 7, what is the equation of a circle that has a center at -3, -7, and a diameter of 2 units? So to write the equation of a circle, you need the center and radius. Well, you have the center here, but you only have the diameter here. Well, remember that the diameter is twice the length of the radius. So that means that in this case, since the diameter is 2, the radius must be equal to 1. Now, as you can see where we worked out number 6, our center and our equation will have opposite signs. So in the first parentheses with the x, you have a -3 here, so it should be x plus 3 squared plus, and then with your y, you have a -7 there, so in your equation it will be positive. And then you do r squared. This is the reason we need to define r first before we did anything else, because a lot of times people will take that 2 and square it and then go, oh, that's equal to 4. But the radius is 1, not 2. So 1 squared just gives you 1. So our equation for this circle is this. Number 8, what is the length of the diameter of a circle defined by x plus 2 squared plus y plus 3 squared equals 100? So it's important to note that it's asking for the length of the diameter. So the first thing you need to find if you're looking at the length or wanting to find the length of the diameter is you need to know what is the radius. Okay. Well, remember your equation has the form x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So r squared is our bit that's on the right side of the equal mark. In this case, r squared equals 100. Well, that's r squared. We need to find r first. So we square root both sides to get rid of that squared. And we get that r is equal to 10. But again, it asks you for the length of the diameter. Well, the diameter is twice the length of the radius. So 2 times r is 10. So your diameter must be equal to 20. Number 9, what are the center and radius of the circle with the equation x minus 4 squared plus y minus 3 squared equals 16? So remember, your center and equation have opposite signs. The x coordinate of the center is with your x's, the y coordinate is with the y. So you have your equation is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So your center will always have opposite signs from your equation. So our h here has a -4 on it, so our h will be a +4. And then likewise, our y coordinate of the center would be +3. Now your radius, the only part of the equation of a circle that deals with the radius is this r squared here. And it's the only thing on the right side of the equal mark. So it's away from the x's and y's. So in this case, r squared equals 16. Now on a quiz or a test, you know, it will be very tricky because sometimes it'll be like, hey, you know, you need to determine what you need to determine what your radius is, and 16 would be an answer here. Okay, so make sure you're very careful about that. So r squared is equal to 16. So to get our radius, we need to square root both sides. And we get that r is equal to 4. Number 10, which graph best represents x minus 1 squared plus y minus 3 squared equal 9? So remember, you to graph the equation of a circle, you need the center and the radius. Well, as you can see here, the radius for all of these would be the same. These are exactly the same size circles. So if we can find our center, we can pretty much determine which one will be our graph. So your center is located with the x and the y's. So x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So your center is hk. When you have a -1 here, your center always has opposite signs. So your x coordinate is a +1. And your y coordinate likewise would be a +3. So if you look here, the only one that has a center at 1, 3 is B. Now, if you are curious, the radius here, r squared is 9, so your radius would be 3. And you can see that that does work out to be 3. But the only thing that was different about these was the center. All right, number 11. Circle B has a center at 2, 3 and a radius equal to 7 units. Which of the following is a point on circle B? So just like number, I believe it was, yes, number 4. You are looking for the one that would lie on the circle. So in number 4, we already had an equation given to us, but in number 11, we want to find that equation first. So we have our center already and our radius. So remember your circle has the form x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So x minus h squared, your h is 2, so in your equation it'll have a negative. Likewise, the y will have a negative 3. And r is 7. 7 squared is 49. So now you can type that into Desmos if you want, or into a graphing calculator, and determine which of these points would be on the circle. So if we go and do that, we have our equation x minus 2 squared plus y minus 3 squared equals 49. And now we're just going to graph our points until we get which ones would lie on it. So 9, 3. Well, 9, 3 was our first one, and it's right there on it. So A is likely our answer. We'll go on through and we'll see 8, 4. 8, 4 isn't on there. You can see that green dot there, 8, 4. All right. 2, 9. 2, 9 isn't on there. And 2, negative 6 is also not on the circle. So our answer would be A. Number 12, what is the equation of a circle that has a center at negative 4, negative 5, and a point on the circle at 0, negative 2? Now, this is where a lot of people get tripped up. Now, we know that our equation has the form x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. And we know that we need to know our center and our radius. Well, in this case, we only know the center, but not our radius. However, we do know a point on the circle is 0, negative 2. Now, how does that help us? Well, if you remember when we talked about a circle, HK is our center, but XY is any point that's on the circle. So in this case, we have an X, we have H, we have Y, and we have K, and we need to find R. Well, R is the only thing missing, so let's plug those in. So our X value is the point on the circle, so 0. Minus H, so we would be doing minus negative 4, so we would be doing plus 4 squared, plus our Y is negative 2, minus negative 5 becomes plus 5 squared, is equal to R squared. 0 plus 4 is 4. 4 squared is 16. Negative 2 plus 5 is 3. 3 squared is 9. 16 plus 9 is 25. So that gives you R squared. Now that would mean that R is equal to 5, but here's the thing. You don't have to square root it because it only wants to know the equation, not what the radius is. And remember, your radius is always going, or your equation is always going to have R squared at the back end. So our equation here, our H is negative, so our equation must be positive. Same with our Y's. And then our R squared value was 25. If you do this, make sure that you square that number. Number 13, what is the length of the radius and the coordinates of the center of the circle defined by the equation x plus 5 squared plus y squared equals 81? So remember your formula, x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. Now your center is grouped with your x's and y's. Now x has this positive 5, so the center has opposite signs from the equation. So your center is going to start out with negative 5. Now notice there's nothing grouped with the y. Since there's nothing grouped with the y, we can say that that coordinate of the center should be 0. And then your radius, our last bit of the equation, r squared. R squared in this case would be 81. And just like we've done before, we need to make sure that we square root 81 to get our radius. So r is equal to 9. Number 14, what is the equation of a circle that has a center at 7, -3 and a radius of 11? So again, we need the center and radius. We already have those. So we've got x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. When we plug this into our center, or our center into the equation, remember these will have opposite signs to the equation. So our center is positive for our x. So in the equation, it's going to be negative. And then our y coordinate is negative. So in the equation, it's going to be positive. Our radius is 11. So we do 11 squared, which is 121. Number 15. Number 15 is very similar to number 11. It says circle M has a center at 1, -3 and a radius equal to 5 units. Which of the following is a point on circle M? So again, we want to determine the equation of a circle. So we already have everything we need. So our first bit here, x minus h, would be x minus 1 squared. Our second bit, y plus 3 squared, is equal to r squared, which would be 5 squared, which is 25. So now we plug that into Desmos. If you want, or you can plug the points into the equation. I do it that way on the key, but you know, that's up to you. X minus 1 squared, oops. X minus 1 squared plus y plus 3 squared is equal to 25. Okay. And now we just plug in our points. -3, -5. That is not on the circle, so that would not be our answer choice. 1, -9. 1, -9 is not on the circle either. It doesn't lie on this purple line. -3, -6. -3, -6 lies perfectly on that circle. We'll check the last one just to make sure. So if we have -2, -8, we see that the green dot that's represented by -2, -8 does not lie on the circle. So C would be our answer. Number 16, what is the equation of a circle that has a center at 8, -1 and a point on the circle at 6, -4? So this is exactly like number 12. So we need to find our r squared value. So our point on the circle is at 6, -4. So our x value is 6 minus h, which is -8 squared, plus our y is -4 minus k, so minus -1. So that would be +1 squared is equal to r squared. 6 minus 8 is -2. -2 squared is 4. Negative 4 plus 1 is negative 3. Negative 3 squared is 9. 4 plus 9 gives us 13, which is r squared. Now again, you could square root it to find r, but just make sure that you square it when you do it here in the equation. I'm just going to leave it like this because it's already r squared. So our equation, x minus h, so our 8 is positive, so in the equation it should be negative. Our y is negative, so it should be positive in the equation. And then r squared we found to be 13. And that's going to do it for this video, guys. I hope this video was helpful as you prepare for the quiz. The quiz is 10 questions, multiple choice. It's posted in a Google form, and it will grade it for you automatically. So just make sure that you do that and read the questions carefully to make sure you understand what the question is asking you for. That's very specific for the diameter. So like a question like number 7 might show up where it gives you a diameter instead of a radius. Number 8 where it says what's the length of the diameter instead of what's the length of the radius. So please make sure you read the question carefully so you understand what it wants you to find. Thanks guys, and I will see you in the next video.